everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of the AutoGuide Show. I am back. I'm feeling much better this week. My name's Jodi. Here we have Sami and Sebastien, and we're going to try a bit of a new format this week because it was suggested by you guys. So we're now going to do half-hour episodes every single week, and they will drop every Friday on YouTube or your favorite podcast player. So let us know if you like it. And don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. This week, we're going to be talking about the Volvo S60 and the Nissan Kicks, and maybe some other stuff if we have time.
Yeah.
But we're going to start off with a user question, and this one comes from Peter Gonzalez. His wife is going to buy a new subcompact crossover. She's cross-shopping the Subaru Crosstrek, the Honda HR-V, and the Nissan Kicks.
Okay.
They said safety is very important, and they don't necessarily need all-wheel drive.
Okay, I think that's a very easy question to answer. Even though all-wheel drive is not a huge concern for him, I would say that the Crosstrek is probably the best bet, especially because the IIHS has already given this vehicle a top safety pick plus rating. It's got that great eyesight system, which includes adaptive cruise control, automatic, what is it called? Automatic braking.
Right.
Blind spot monitoring. There's even rear automatic braking if you're about to back into something. Helpful stuff all around, and I think that Subaru's put a pretty good safety package around their vehicle, and the Crosstrek has a lot of those features, even though it's one of the more entry-level vehicles in the planet.
I also really like the way it drives. Besides it being like a little bit slow, it drives really nicely.
As long as you don't need to get anywhere in a hurry and you never need to see it, it's great.
Well,
no,
the other
really,
two are like that as well, though. Like the HR-V is pretty slow, and the Kicks isn't all that fast either.
The HR-V, less said about that, the better. I really like the Nissan Kicks. I was super surprised by it. Sammy and I were driving one yesterday. It's so much fun. It's a little less safe than, or the rating is a little worse than the Crosstreks, but also gets very good ratings. And looks adorable, two-tones.
It is cute, yeah.
And feels really zippy.
It's really fun.
Spoiler alert for later when we actually talk about the Kicks.
Yeah, well,
Sebastien.
anyway, thank you for your question, Peter. And if any of our audience has questions, make sure to email us at tips@AutoGuide.com, or maybe leave a comment on the YouTube video or the post on AutoGuide. And since you guys were so ready to talk about the Kicks, why don't we just continue?
Well, Sebastian's right. There is a lot to like about the Kicks. Except for one of the problems that I have with it, it's not available with all-wheel drive. And I don't know, quality-wise, just the way it feels, the materials, the kind of sounds within the cabin, a little bit on the inferior side of things.
That is, you're right.
Materials are nice, but touching things and there's a lot of rattles. Some of the panels don't look quite right.
When I did make the window go up at one point, and when it hit the top, the whole door flexed, and I was like, okay, so there's some cheapness going on, but it is also a very cheap car. Like it starts at like 17 something.
Starts at 17,000, and the one that we have, which is the fully loaded, I believe SR model. Only rings in at about $25,000. A very affordable vehicle.
That's pretty good.
And it's so much fun. Like it feels like the type of car where if you pulled the handbrake, it would just go spinning, doing 360s down the road. Like it's just.
That's how you have fun, hey?
Yeah.
It's like a curling stone.
And I don't think it's that big of a deal that it doesn't come with all-wheel drive, because I don't think you need all-wheel drive, even if you deal with bad weather and stuff like that.
I think with the video that me and Sebastien shot with the Kicks, we go into that in more detail. But you're right, you don't always need all-wheel drive. And in fact, this car with its 1.6 liter four-cylinder engine makes 125 horsepower. That would, if you added all-wheel drive to that, it would increase the weight. Yeah. It would struggle trying to send that power to all four wheels.
Would
oh yeah, the fuel economy as well would suffer.
It is a very light car. It weighs like 2,600 pounds or something.
Yeah, about 2,700 pounds.
Yeah,
very lightweight car. That means it gets good fuel economy. And it's actually quite responsive and fun to drive.
And it only needs tiny little brakes, and you can stop real hard, and then you get up in a hurry. 125 horsepower does not sound like an impressive figure, but when you have very little weight around you, it's like it's a blast.
And you don't need a lot of power to have fun in a car. I think part of the fun of the Kicks is that you can drive the beans out of it, and it's not going to kill you, right? Yeah.
If that thing came with a manual, it would be a blast. That thing would be so much fun.
That's a good point. Does it come with a manual in other markets?
I'm not sure, but the ones that we have is that CVT.
Which,
I don't know.
As far as CVTs go, not the worst. I know we all have our opinions about
It
CVTs.
wasn't that bad. I didn't think it was that bad. It wasn't as bad as like the HRVs.
I mean, it
It
wasn't
wasn't
like,
even as bad as the sport. What is it? Not the test drive, but the road sport.
Oh.
Yeah.
I will say that it is. I mean, you notice it. You know that it has a CVT. You hear it. And this is one of the problems that I do have with the cars. It's quite loud, especially in comparison to, say, I think the Kona isn't that loud.
The Kona's a bit more refined all around, but it is a little bit more expensive than the Kicks.
Yeah, a fully loaded Kona, because it can be had with a turbocharged engine and all-wheel drive, will set you back around $30,000.
Yeah, exactly. But it is really good, and I've said it before, and I think the Kona is one of, if not the best subcompact crossover on the market right now. And yeah, it's really good. So maybe Peter Gonzalez can check that out too, if you're interested.
Yeah.
And they're both doing fun things with colors. I really liked the
That's a
two
good
tones
point.
on both cars. I think the kits, the black with the sort of coppery roof is really good. I'm looking at the IHS one, which is blue with a white roof. They look
I
great.
love that.
Yeah.
I like that more and more automakers are doing that.
Yeah, it's
really
really
fun.
funky. Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought up the IIHS with the Kicks. This has been given a top safety pick rating by the IIHS, not a plus. And they've rated two things that could use some improvement. One, passenger side and the small overlap crash test.
Which, to be fair, are acceptable.
It's tough. Yeah, it's not like devastating.
It wasn't bad,
Yeah.
yeah.
But a lot of automakers and a lot of small cars have difficulty with that crash test in particular. The other one is a little bit more curious. It's about the headlights, and they cause a little bit too much glare to oncoming traffic. And me and Sebastien speculated this might be because it's kind of on a raised ride height in comparison to, say, the usual body style of a hatchback. And that might cause some issues as well.
Well, you and I both, we all drive cars that are like, passenger cars. And when any SUV or truck comes up behind you, it's like it fills both mirrors with light and is blinding and dazzling.
Well, you and Jodi both drive hatchbacks, and they have a lot of rear glass. I have a very low sports car, and I notice whenever a truck is behind me, I am instantly blinded. I can't do much.
Well, even if a hatchback pulls up behind you, like,
I don't have a slammed car.
it's really small. It's
Anyway.
so short.
But should we get back to the Kicks? The Kicks, I mean, another vehicle that I was very impressed with. I didn't expect it to be as endearing as it is. There's something about it. Every time you get in it, you fire up the engine. The moment you step on the throttle, it is ready to go.
It's a little bit jumpy though.
Yeah, and I think that has to do with how light it is, and I think that adds to that charm. It's very rare to find a car with charm, and I think this has some.
Yeah, it definitely has a personality, and in its segment, that's a very rare thing to
Absolutely.
have.
Yeah, people think apparently. Pardon?
Talking about the HRV with no personality whatsoever.
It has the personality of a bean.
Or the Chevy Trax, same deal. No personality there.
Exactly.
And this is a very important part. Just because you're getting an affordable car does not mean you should not have some fun with it.
I agree.
One of the other things I wanted to add is the steering is a little light, but again, it's super like tossable. It's very. You don't feel like it's vague in that sense.
No. Yeah.
But you end up still enjoying it. Overall, really affordable.
Yep.
Fuel efficient. Cute.
Yeah, it
charming.
is.
Kind of adorable.
It's got a lot
What
going
else
for
can you
it,
say
which we
about
were
it?
actually really surprised about.
Yeah,
I think going into it, a lot of people were like, "Oh, the Kicks," and they eye rolled, but it was actually really good. So I think the ability to surprise us is important.
It's not a penalty box, essentially.
No, it's not a penalty box.
Right.
It's true, and you're right. It does have some cheap materials, but it's sort of makes up for it by actually being cheap.
Do you want to talk about some of the things that we found that were like just... There's some eyebrow-raising issues we had with it. They're not like devastating problems.
Well, like the window switches are like...
No.
It's
When
an
I got
economy
into
car.
when I got into the car, it has new floor mats because we're approaching winter.
Yeah.
The hooks that hold the floor mats in place, one of them broke out. And there's just a hole there now. And I can see through the hole into the sound deadening and the metal.
Oh, okay.
Also, right behind the hood, where like the windshield wipers rest, the plastic and the body paneling aren't
Flush.
connected.
They're not flush.
And it's on both sides, so you're like, is this broken or is this just how it left the factory?
Right.
No, talk about when we opened the hood.
So when you open the hood, we all expect to see like a
prop.
A prop, something to prop up the hood. This one, for some reason, Nissan connected it to the actual hood, except that the little latch,
latch
doesn't fit in. The prop doesn't fit into the latch. So when you open the hood, there's just a metal bar flopping all over.
So I don't know what the scoop is with our particular model, but it was especially weird when you open the trunk and this prop is like swinging out towards you, and you're like, wait.
Makes it kind of hard to close the hood too. Because you're trying to shove it and like close the hood.
You have to like coordinate a little bit. Okay, well that's interesting.
So, like I said before, quality, maybe attention to detail might not really be there in the Kicks' favor, but the rest of the car is full of charm and some kooky stuff that I think ended up making it a little bit more positive than negative.
Cool. So let's talk about another car that we were actually really surprised by, the Volvo S60 and V60 actually, right?
Yeah, I drove the V60
Yeah,
as well.
so I actually drove it this week for the first time, and you did last week. Yeah. What were your initial thoughts on it?
I like new Volvos. I think they're all really good, but every Volvo that I've driven since the XC90 has been kind of like, this is the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, come on. That XC40 is extremely different.
With the exception of the XC40.
Even the XC40, I don't find that different. Like, the interior materials are different, but just the experience of driving it is like, this feels like a Volvo. The S60, it feels really good. Like, it drives really well. And I think it's because they realize that in the segment that they're in, they're going to have some performance bona fides, and they really impressed me. It was a much better experience.
I was really surprised by the steering, actually, because every Volvo that you get into, you could do the one-finger steering, which you always do, and you get a lot of hate for it in the videos, but you're making a point, so I let it slide. And so this one, it's heavy enough that you can't do that, and that makes it a little bit more engaging, and I think a bit more in line with the rest of the sportier sedans in that segment.
And it's not the sportiest sedan in the segment by any stretch, but it's just, it can hang, you know?
Yeah.
Like, on a nice road, on a nice day, it feels really good. You can carve, you can sort of like, and it feels rhythmic and nice, and it's... Yeah. And I drove the T8, Polestar engineered one.
Like 400 plus
415 horsepower. Yeah,
Jeez.
It feels really fast. It is, and it's got the Öhlins dampers, which aren't quite as fancy because you can't have sport suspension and whatever suspension. But on the other hand, they're just properly set up.
They're just really good.
They're just well set up, and they have three flow valves. Anyway,
is this like the Öhlins dampers in the older Polestar versions of the S60 and V60, where you could adjust them if you got underneath the car or something?
Yeah,
this one is under the hood. There's
much easier.
Front,
and
then if in back you do have to get under.
Oh, okay. So same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
So probably don't mess with that, because it's like you're going to be tempted to, and then you're going to ruin it. But it is just really well set up, and it's like the suspension is really stiff when it moves slowly, and really soft when it moves quickly. Which means that if you hit a bump or you hit a pothole, it's really compliant, but around a corner, it's really stiff, and it makes you feel stable and good.
I also really loved the way it looks. And I know like their design language is like, we're all used to it, but the S60 still looks really handsome as a sedan. It looks like it's very classy and proper.
It is. It's a good looking car. It is my least favorite Volvo right now.
In terms of design?
In terms of design.
Really?
I don't find that arch over the back wheel particularly nice. I think it's kind of...
Like they're trying too hard?
I think it's just, it stands out to me, and not in a good way, because it's a really minimalist design otherwise. And it's like really, again, the profile is handsome, and like it's got all of the good looking Volvo stuff, but there are some things about it where I'm like, it still looks a little wedgy to me, it still looks a little this, but I mean, this is all understanding that it's a base, very handsome car. Like, it's still a good-looking car.
Well, one of the things that surprised me about the S60 was the interior. And you can get a very unique interior option, those plaid seats that really stand out.
Oh, yeah.
I think those are only in the V60, but yes.
Oh, okay, that's the one.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good way of making the Volvo stand out further from the German and Japanese competitors.
Yeah, I mean, they do a really good job with their interiors anyway, because they feel different, and they're not as boring or sterile as the German interiors.
And they're not as exuberant as say the Lexus.
They're a lot more like toned down and conservative, but they did it really well.
Yeah.
The only thing I wish they would really fix is the infotainment system. Like, I see where they're going with it. It has this big tablet-like touchscreen, and it's like, you know, it's okay, but they need to make it more user-friendly.
Yeah.
And I think they have to put a lot more effort into that, because they're getting a lot of complaints.
And I think, well, again, I said in my review, it's kind of mystifying that Volvo, the company that is all about safety, has maybe the one that I have the most trouble working like safely on the road, because everything's buried beneath the menu.
Yeah,
and if you
like the font is really small.
The font is really small, and you gotta go like, yeah, which was it, left or right, or was it?
Like, my question is, how should they address this issue? Should they make the buttons massive, like the touch buttons like huge? Should they make shortcuts so that all of your favorite functions are a little bit closer to
both?
So they have a little bit of that. Like on the main menu, they have their patented 4 tablet 4 button thing, which is okay, but I think that those should be permanent buttons. I think that if you're gonna be saying that those are 4 really important things, have them where I can find them every time. Okay. I don't want to have to swipe left or go into a sub menu. I want to be able to reach and just hit that, because like having to swipe through menus, I know that you will eventually. These things are supposed to eventually become second nature, but the kind of like you've got to do some reasoning and you've got to look, and it's just.
The reason why it takes too long is because we're all used to how tablets operate, like an iPad or something like that, or cell phones. And like really, just to make it more user-friendly, you just have to make it operate like a smartphone.
Yeah,
and then everyone would immediately know how to use it.
Well, I'm not so sure, because when I use my smartphone, I'm staring at it. Like, I have to look at my... maybe I'm the only person. There's very few things I can do on my smartphone without looking.
I think it's muscle memory, so you know it enough, or like... You could unlock it just by glancing. You don't have to stare at it. Like, you can glance, look up, and finish your thing, and then continue working on your phone.
Okay.
Well, I think that the other problem with this is that even if you have that 4 tablet thing like on the main menu, like if you're in navigation, it's gone.
Yeah.
True.
And if you need to adjust your seat, everything goes away. And if you need to do anything, then things are disappearing on you.
It's one of the things that, if we're going to talk about infotainment system, I want to talk about my Ford Touch, which is an ancient version of Ford's infotainment system. And the way they did it was similar. They had 4 permanent touch buttons in the corners. So if you went to navigation, which was I think the top right corner, if you wanted to go back to climate, you just pressed the top left corner. They were always there no matter what like sub-screen you were in. Yeah. And I found that to be a very important feature of the car. Yeah. It's no longer like that with Think 3. And it was something that I wish more automakers would do, especially with the touchscreen system. I think the only person who has like a permanent screen is Uconnect, I think, has that permanent tray on the bottom.
Yeah, that would work really well too.
So I find that's a big issue for me in particular.
I even like Volkswagen systems where they have a few buttons on the side.
No.
Okay, you're not a fan of these.
Man, we had this Jetta, and remember how long it took for us to try to change the ambient lighting?
That's true. That was nearly impossible. But no, but the radio, the nav, all those, the things that you do while you're driving are always there.
My issue is that there's a settings for each one of those things.
That's true.
That I didn't know where to find other than going into... If I wanted to change the sound settings, instead of changing it in the settings, the sound in the sound sub-menu, I have to go to the music. Only the music can hear it. You know what I mean? Like,
granted, that is, yeah.
It was just a jumble. It was a bit confusing, and I found myself frustrated in searching for things.
That's fair enough.
One of the Volvo's greatest assets is that digital gauge cluster. Now, I haven't been in the S60 that you guys drove. Is it there, that big digital display?
Yeah, it's the same as it ever was. It's, again, I find it a little difficult to control because none of the buttons on the steering wheel have there's no information on them.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they're completely blank D-pad, directional pads. Yeah. You're just supposed to guess whatever they do.
Well, I don't know which side does what.
So as soon as I find a way to put the map on the digital gauge cluster, I'd never touch it again.
Just leave
basically.
It, yeah.
Oh, and I think their solution to that is just not to have that much changing on it. Like you don't have that many options on the digital dash anyway, so it's kind of, and that feels that's simpler and that makes the system easier to use. But also you have the screen that you're kind of doing nothing with, so that is a little bit disappointing. But I don't know. I guess erring on the side of caution is probably better on that.
Right.
Would you take this car over a C-Class, over a 3 Series, or what else is strong in the segment? The A4?
I would take it over the 3 Series.
Okay. Well,
the current one, but there's a new one coming out.
Okay, actually, I should take this back. I think the most interesting new sports sedan in the segment is the Genesis G70. Yep. And this is the car that I think Volvo has to really knock it out of the park. Both of these are brands trying to get people's attention with a brand new product.
Working really hard to...
So, and we're very impressed with the G70.
I really like the G70.
Yeah, I'm driving one right now. It's great. I drove it 4.5 hours to go to Michigan, and it was great. It's sporty, it's luxurious, it's everything I want. It's user-friendly, it's...
What is it that the Volvo is not?
I think it might come down to pricing, honestly. I have a feeling that, well, they haven't released pricing yet for the S60, right?
Yeah,
or the V60?
The S60, not the V60, but
okay.
the S60, they do have pricing on. I can look that up.
Okay, I'm just not sure if it's, I have a feeling it might be more expensive than the Genesis.
Okay.
Because the Genesis makes a really strong value play, which is not something that Volvo always does.
Well, one of the interesting parts is the most powerful Genesis G70 makes 365 horsepower. It's a very fast vehicle. It does 0 to 60 in like 4.5 seconds.
With the V6.
But this T8 Volvo
Polestar engine
sounds nuts.
Yeah, it makes 415 horsepower, and a lot of that is in the lower end is electric.
Yeah.
So it really feels fast. It starts. The T8 starts at 53,000. And the T6 starts at 40,000.
Okay.
It's not bad.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Actually, 415 horsepower, it's only 10 away from like a BMW M3. Or something like that. Maybe I don't know my M3 numbers as much as I thought I would, but that's pretty impressive.
It's a lot of power. And even if you don't get the Polestar engineered, it's still 400 horsepower. And a plug-in hybrid with, the not EPA numbers, but it's like 21-ish miles of electric conveyance. So, you know, that's pretty cool. And it does seem to be focused on the experience rather than the electric drive, so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can tell, I think I do think it's a little wild that you said that the Volvo is not the prettiest, the S60 is not the prettiest Volvo to you.
No.
I think it's better looking than the Genesis, I think.
See, I think the Genesis is better looking.
I think it's just two different vibes. Like, I like the way they both look because they take a different approach from what everyone else is doing. But it's hard for me to decide which one is prettier than the other. They're just pretty for different reasons, I think.
In this segment, my favorite is the C-Class. To me, that's what a sports sedan should be like. It's a very classy, luxurious car, a very nice interior, and the drive experience is totally, I wouldn't say anonymous, but it's good. It's like very good enough.
I think the big pull with something like Genesis or Volvo is for the people who want something different.
Absolutely.
Like, they don't want one of the German big three just because that's what everyone else does.
Right.
So if you're looking for something that's a bit more unique and you want to stand out a bit more, I think the Genesis and the Volvo can both do that for you.
And you're really not suffering for making that choice to be different. Like, you might even be gaining something depending on the car you buy it instead of.
I think you would too. You would, well, they're more affordable than the Germans, and I put a lot of points behind like being cool and like, looking cool.
There's a lot of services to come with both of these automakers. Genesis has an interesting delivery service, I think, at least in Canada, where they deliver this car to you in a glass case. It's pretty impressive.
Well, it's full service. They'll pick it up for servicing, give you a replacement while they're working on it, and there's no dealers either. Like, you can just do it right from your home if you want.
And then Volvo, well, they're going to be offering this subscription service as Care by Volvo, assuming they can get it, you know, smoothly off the ground, because I hear that there's been some hiccups, but this is another really interesting service for new car buyers who are looking for a luxury experience that's different than all the other automakers in this class.
I'd agree.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, like, I'd get the Genesis over whatever like Acura or Lexus products.
I mean, the Acura is a pretty low bar. I mean, I get a lot of cars. I mean, I get an Accord 2.0T over an Acura.
Yeah, I would too.
So,
but they're playing in that sphere. Like, Acura is supposed to be the luxury arm of Honda, right? And so they're the Genesis equivalent. Is anyone cross-shopping an Acura and a Genesis? I would always pick the Genesis.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
That's it. Okay, so that's it for this week's podcast. Thank you again for watching. And we're trying a whole new format where you'll see us way more often than usual. And if you want to stay up to date on that, I suggest that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we're also on all of your favorite podcast clients. We're on Apple iTunes, we're on Google Play Music, we're on Google Podcasts, we're also on Pocket Casts. That's what I use, that's my favorite. So be sure to subscribe. And if you have anything to say, any feedback, send a review. Leave a comment on our YouTube channel. We will definitely read it, and we'll even take some of those questions that you have in consideration for next week's episode. So thanks again, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.